here in Westborough.
Thank you. Chris?
Hi, I'm Chris Pants. I'm the Public Works Director here in Westborough.
Thank you. And from the EDC, we have Todd.
Yeah, I'm Todd Alexander. I'm an EDC member and a local commercial real estate broker and property owner, a commercial property owner as well.
Good to see you. And Fred?
Hi, Fred Leonardo. Fred Leonardo, Building Commissioner in town and EDC board.
Okay. And we have a few guests with us. Kevin?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin Kiros. I'm the Central Mass Regional Director for the Mass Office of Business Development. And Westborough is one of the, I believe, 68 municipalities that are in my region.
Great. Look forward to hearing from you. Mark?
Hello, I'm Mark Barreau, Senior Vice President of Caruth Capital.
Thank you to Caruth for being such a major contributor to our community. Dan Feeney?
Hi, I'm Dan Feeney. I'm a civil engineer at Bales and Thomas, and we're working with the town and Caruth Capital on a Massworks grant application associated with the traffic signal on Flanders Road.
Great. And Scott Thornton?
Hi, my name is Scott Thornton. I'm with Vanessa & Associates. We're traffic consultants working for Caruth and working with Dan on the signal design there on Flanders Road.
Great. And Pete?
So my name is Pete Allen. I am a retired person, longtime resident of Westborough, and I'm in a non-voting capacity with the EDC. I have the official title of an ambassador, but nobody has to worry about me voting against anything. I'm a longtime branch director for the Worcester SCORE chapter, concentrating on small businesses here in the Westborough area.
Great. Thanks, Pete. So first on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our June 22nd meeting. So I'll make a motion to approve. I have a second.
Chris, I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay. If no one's declining, so moved.
Since I wasn't on the committee at the time, I will abstain.
You can actually technically vote if you wish to.
Oh, then I'll vote yes.
Okay, I think we need you to vote so we have a quorum. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with Fred. Yes, we do need Alan's vote. Okay, thank you. So first on our agenda, we have Kevin Kiros from the Office of Business Development joining us today. And as we've all been experiencing the last few months, there's definitely the need for resources and incentives to stimulate development. And there have been many programs that have been introduced, several of which we've looked at, but certainly want to hear more about them. So Kevin was willing to join us. He's been in the past, but we wanted to get an update. Maybe we start with the Massworks. Hi, Jim. Jim Robbins joined us. Jim, do you want to say hello?
Sorry, just joining.
Okay. We're just getting rolling, Jim. We voted on the minutes and we're just introducing Kevin to speak about the program. So.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And thank you, Kevin, for coming.
So Kevin's going to start in with the Massworks grants and then go into some of the downtown incentives.
Sure. So yeah, actually, just a quick question before I get started. So Alan, you're new to the economic development team here. Are you also a newly elected selectman or just new in this role?
I'm new in this role. I was elected a year ago, so
okay.
I just finished my first year.
All right, fantastic. I was just kind of curious. All right, so Massworks infrastructure program. During the introductions, I heard, I think, at least 4 people refer to working on the Massworks project here. So I'm not sure there's much I'm going to tell you that is going to, be news to you. It sounds like you guys are knee deep in the application. But what I have and what I thought I would just pick some highlights out of. Assistant Secretary Juan Vega, who is in charge of the Massworks project within the Mass Office of Economic Development, Housing and Economic Development, did 2 webinars last month. I don't know if any of you have attended either of those. They were June 22nd and June 29th. Anybody here participate in either of those? Okay. So I have the slide set that Juan used for his presentation. So I think the best thing for me to do would be, after this meeting, I can forward that slide set to Bonnie and she can get it out to all of you, because there's a wealth of information in here. And again, those of you that are already, knee deep in this stuff know the nuts and bolts probably better than I do even. But I think what's important to glean out of the presentation, particularly if you're in the process of applying, are the things that are viewed very favorably in applications. Things that you can do to tailor any application you make to kind of check some boxes is certainly going to be beneficial. So I would encourage you all to read through the slide set and just take note of things where things are viewed favorably because of the following, that kind of thing. Okay, it's kind of a backdrop there.
Kevin, would you mind just giving us some of the highlights? I have been away from a lot of these grants for a while.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do intend to, just speak very briefly about that. So this is the 10th year of the Massworks program. It was started in the Patrick administration, was, working exceptionally well. And rather than reinvent the wheel, the Baker administration has continued it and actually has expanded the funding of the program. So it's a great program. Those of you that have been in this space for a long time recognize it was a combination of a number of different programs with the intent being streamline the application process, so you don't have to go here for this and there for that, whatever, to make it kind of a single point of contact for most of the infrastructure programs. Any project has to be sponsored by a municipality, but one of the key components of any project is you should be able to point to some economic development byproduct as a result of the infrastructure project. So that's very important. Other things that are viewed very favorably, leveraging private investment. So in conjunction with, X amount to extend the sewer line or whatever the project may be, we're also going to see an influx of whatever, $75 million for construction of a new building that's going to employ X number of people, those types of things. Projects that are viewed very favorably are those that are very far along in their development process. Essentially, shovel-ready projects, are going to be viewed much more favorably than those that are not. And those are, essentially the ability to start in the upcoming construction season. So, we want to move, as quickly as possible into these. And here's the reason, there's a pool of funding available each year. And once those awards are made, that money is encumbered until that project is completed. It can't be used for anything else. And so we essentially don't want, large encumbrances on the books for multiple years. So that's part of the reason that I think the committee that decides these, views very favorably projects you can pull the trigger on right away and get started on. Okay. Give you a sense for the scope and magnitude. Last year, so this is the 2019 round, which I guess is almost technically 2 years ago now. 92 applications were received, so a highly competitive program. And the total request for those 92 applications was $223 million. Okay. What was awarded? 36 awards were made for a total of around $72 million. So about a third of applications and about a third of the funding amounts that were awarded. So I was with with the Lieutenant Governor in a couple meetings where we unveiled Massworks awards, and she likes to point out that they rarely say no, they just typically say not now. And recognize oftentimes it takes a couple bites at the apple until you get the award, just because it is such a highly competitive program. If you think about that, almost $250 million in requests for $72 million worth of awards. So it is highly competitive. So the more of the boxes you can check that say, this is shovel ready, there's a parallel private investment, all those types of things are very important to the program. Okay. And then from a timing perspective, I just want to make sure I get the date right here. Applications are due August 28th is the final date for this Friday, August 28th at 11:59 p.m. So you have until right before midnight. For those of you who like to work late to get your applications in. Okay. So just for my own kind of edification, the project that you all referenced that you're going after right now is, and just give me a quick snapshot of that, somebody.
I can do that. Sure, I can do that. Thanks so much. Those are very helpful pointers. And the project is a new signalized intersection at the intersection of West Park Drive Extension, which is a new industrial road subdivision supporting an existing industrial park in Westborough, the business park. And the project is intended to pay for a new intersection widening of Flanders Road, signal, pedestrian crossing that supports both pedestrians and bike trail, multi-purpose trail. And the trail would run the entire length of West Park Drive with new sidewalks. Also, the entire length of West Park Drive connecting to a regional bike trail, which the town is hoping to build, called the Boston to Worcester Airline Trail. It's the old Boston to Worcester trolley line trail.
So it sounds like you're checking a lot of the boxes there, including, kind of community use on top of just the economic development component. And certainly the private investment piece certainly sounds like it's there as well. Good.
Yeah, another highlight of the project is it's intended to relieve congestion at the Connector Drive and Research Drive currently existing signal, as well as the Route 9 495 interchange, because this will allow people to leave West Park Drive and Westborough Business Park and head east towards Hopkinton and Southborough without having to get on Route 9, without having to get into an already burdened interchange. And it's hoped that will leverage more jobs in the future. And just as a side note, that particular interchange in the office parks in Westborough have 84 existing office buildings at 7.2 million square feet of development.
Wow. Fantastic. Excellent. Very good. So I will send Assistant Secretary Vega's presentation to Bonnie, and she can get it out to you. And then again,
Kevin, I think we got frozen there. I do have a question, which is the dollar amounts, the range in awards, as well as the dollar amounts that we're talking about with the current project in Westborough.
Okay. I would hate to misspeak. I don't believe there's a cap on awards, but again, it's all part of the same pool of money. So if they make a $10 million award someplace, that's 5 $2 million awards they're not making someplace else.
Okay.
So I think it's all taken in context. I don't think the size of an award will work against you. I'm just suggesting that it's all the same pool of money, and they'll use that judiciously.
Jim, do you want to, I don't know if this application is to the point now where you've identified the total project costs and what the request is for the application?
I would defer that to Mark Farrow. We are working on the construction cost.
So I'll ask Scott about the intersection and the traffic signal. But as far as the road is concerned, I think we're estimating around $1.25 to $1.5 million. That includes the road and the B-Wall multi-use trail.
And just to follow up on that, Mark, in terms of the road improvements on Flanders Road with the signal, that's we are working on the detailed construction cost estimate, but it's every bit of $1 million for that work that's proposed. That's just on Flanders Road, including the signal.
So is
Sorry,
that,
I muted myself there. Sorry about that. So just looking backwards, look at the 2019 numbers, 36 awards for $72 million, average award about $2 million. Okay.
okay.
So
Yep.
you're right in that bandwidth.
Does the $2.5 million reflect the total cost estimate at this point, or is that just pieces of the total project?
Yeah, for the work on Flanders Road with the signal, that includes all the construction and the design. The work is being done within the town right of way, except where there's some segments right at the corner of the proposed layout for West Park Drive that there's some property that's required, but it's under the control of Caruth. So they can issue an easement for that, and there shouldn't be any acquisition of property required.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was just going to add, as you were starting to speak there, these projects have to happen on publicly owned land or land to which there is an access easement. So you would have to have the easement in place. I believe before the award, don't quote me on that, but if there's an access easement that would be required in order to make this happen, I would move post haste to get that done.
So a question on that, Kevin. The West Park Drive extension is a private road, but the signal is on a public road. The signal is on Flanders Road, the pedestrian crossing, the turning lane, widening, all the improvements on Flanders Road, 1,300 feet, linear feet on the public way.
Okay, so I would just err on the side of caution. If there is work to be done that is on private property, I'll give you the perfect example. In my hometown of Uxbridge, we had received a grant to do some bridge work, and it required just some temporary access in order to do the work from some adjacent properties. And we actually had to go through the process of getting access easements for that in order for the grant to move forward. So I would err on the side of caution, on these types of issues.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in terms of the easement that we're looking at, it's a small corner of the intersection of the layout. So it's not something that's integral on Flanders Road that's required. It's just to locate some signal equipment.
Okay.
And
One question I had, Kevin, is if there's a request made for, say, $1 million, is it possible to get a grant that's less than that? And then what happens in that case?
I'd hate to misspeak on that. I do know that oftentimes projects will come in under the projected amount, and in which case, obviously, the money is returned to the Commonwealth. It's not just, it's not spent by the Commonwealth. I'd hate to misspeak on if you ask for $2 million and they only think it's $1.5 million worth of value, what happens there. So I can research that and get back to you. Okay.
So, Kevin, part of this project is going to involve the Boston-Worcester Airline Trail, multi-use trail. And so parallel to the road that we're building on private property is going to be this bike, multi-use trail. If we were to include that in the grant, prior to the application of the grant, we should grant that easement then, is what you're saying, correct? If we wanted to include that portion of it.
I think you should, I believe you can get technical assistance with respect to the grant, by reaching out through the website, because some of the nuances would best be answered by, the review team that's going to actually be, pouring over these in detail.
Because in this particular case, the town is the real applicant, but as far as Caruth Capital is concerned, we control all that land, so it's not something that we need to go get someone's approval for.
Right. And the reality is near 100% of all of these, there is a public-private partnership. So that's not atypical at all.
Okay.
Kevin, is there someone that can be contacted directly rather than just going to the website for technical assistance as a sounding board?
Yeah, I'll get you a point of contact. I'll get
Okay.
back to you on that.
So it sounds like it's a $2.5 million budget.
Yeah.
Okay. And I
Went
heard
up
you
by-
say,
The intersection just went up by about $500,000.
one thing you said, Kevin, is that it needs to be on public-owned land or an easement. So if the Caruth owns all of this land other than that intersection, what do they need to do in addition to the, I guess, is it more than just the corner easement that's needed? I'm not going to, I mean, I defer to the experts, but I just want to be sure we get everything lined up.
Yeah. Am I muted? No, I'm not. The language is eligible public infrastructure projects shall be located on public land or on public leasehold, right of way, or easement. So it's not a should, it's a shall, or may, it's a shall. So I think that's something you're definitely going to want to address.
Well, we're fortunate to have a generous developer in town, so it's it's a strong public-private partnership. So,
and we like nothing better than to hear of strong public-private partnerships.
Yeah.
Did you want me to move on to some of the other programs?
Yeah. Well, I guess before we do that, I don't know whether Mark, you, Scott, Dan, or Jim, if you have any other questions on that topic. I'm not sure if you're all planning to stay on. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the discussion, but maybe while you're all together, if you have anything else we can handle at this point, we may as well.
I would like to, if Kevin can stay, I had planned to give a presentation on the project, and Mark and his team, along with Dan and Scott, came prepared to actually show the project, the preliminary construction designs, because the subdivision roadway has received preliminary plan approval from the planning board. So if you can stay, Kevin, that would be helpful, just to give us your feedback. And if not, I understand.
Yeah, bear with you. My dog's going to go crazy. Someone just came home, so bear with you.
So Kevin, if you want, we can continue on this topic of Massworks and have them present the project at this point, and then you get into the other programs.
Actually, I think I'm okay. I think we can keep going if that's okay. I mean, just to cover those, or would you prefer to do the Massworks piece next?
Well, only because I think Josh was also going to join us, and I know he's interested in some of the other programs.
Okay.
So
I'm okay from a time perspective, so I can wait.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. All right. I mean, how long is the presentation, Jim, with everyone?
15 minutes, I'd say. I have an introduction explaining the Massworks and how the project answers the requirements of Massworks. And that obviously I'd like to have Kevin say, yes, they do, or no, they don't, or you could beef this up or not. So I need to have Kristen allow Dan to share his screen. And by the way, this is the same presentation that we gave to the selectmen on Tuesday evening. And the selectmen voted unanimously to support this. And I sent a letter of support to the town manager. The selectmen authorized the town manager to sign the application when we send it, and to work with the chairman of the board of selectmen to endorse the letter of support.
Dan, see if you're able to share your screen at this point, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes. Let me know if it's sharing.
Yep. Yes.
All right. Can you see it, Jim?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I can
Yeah.
see it. Thank you. I'm sorry, I needed to unmute. I will be really quick with this first slide because we talked about it already. So the Massworks program requires a project to support economic development, improve infrastructure, create jobs, support local and regional land use development goals, be consistent with local and regional economic development plans. Eligible grant uses include pre-construction design and engineering, direct construction and material costs, project administration. Next slide. This slide talks about how the West Park Drive project satisfies Massworks requirements. So again, as we said earlier, we talked about access improvements, a new signalized intersection to relieve congestion at Connector Road and Research Drive, which is currently at level of service D and decreasing. It relieves congestion at the Route 9 and the I-495 interchange, one of the top congested intersections in the Commonwealth. As a matter of fact, it recently rose to the #1 traffic nightmare in the state. It will give an option for commuters heading east other than Route 9 so that they could use Route 85 in Southborough if they wished. The traffic signal will improve safety on Flanders Road. It will reduce vehicle speeds because they'll have to go through the traffic signal. It relieves a problem that we currently have with line of sight because the reduced speed, the line of sight issue that's actually right at the intersection of the new West Park Drive and Flanders Road will reduce the importance of the line of sight problems. And it improves options for turning movements, left-hand turns into West Park Drive, as well as left-hand turns along the corridor. Lastly, West Park Drive extension enhances access for pedestrians and bikers in the multimodal access trails that we have planned, the B-Walt, pedestrian sidewalks, and a traffic phase for pedestrian crossing on Flanders Road. Next slide. The project encourages job creation, improved access, makes West Park Drive and the entire east side more attractive to business location. And some of the businesses that recently chose to locate there yet have future plans for expansion are the Olympus International Phase 2 expansion, Partners Healthcare, which is a brand new development yet to be built, and of course the previously approved Dell EMC campus, which is on the Flanders Road entrance and is shared by both Westborough and Southborough, 264 acres in Westborough, 11 industrial, manufacturing, and R&D sites in the two towns. It supports goals of economic development of the town's master plan to improve opportunities for responsible economic development, to reduce congestion and improve circulation while improving access for walkers and bikers. Lastly, it supports the goals of regional economic efforts, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, which we know as CEDS, the I-495 Compact, and CMRPC's plan for regional economic development. Those are all plans which have already been unveiled, and this directly answers some of those goals. Thank you.
And we do have a couple of exhibits for those that may not be familiar with the area. Currently, West Park Drive in the Westborough Office Park is a long dead-end road. There's a number of different buildings in the park. As Jim referenced, Olympus is being built up at the intersection of West Park Drive and Route 9 right now. There's a potential for a Partners Healthcare medical office building to be built just to the south of that. What this project would do would be to extend West Park Drive down to Flanders Road, eliminating the dead end that currently exists and allowing vehicles that primarily want to head eastbound on Flanders Road into Southborough and Hopkinton and sections of Westborough to be able to leave the site without having to go out to the congested Route 9 corridor. And you can see here from 2200 West Park Drive to 134 Flanders Road is only a distance of about 700 feet, but to drive it is about 2.8 miles. So it would help to take a lot of the strain off of this existing Route 9 Research Drive Connector Road intersection. So, and this graphic here just sort of shows all the development that already exists in the area. And there is some vacancy in a lot of the buildings out here, and some of that is driven by the fact that it's hard to rent space based on the traffic conditions out here. And there is also vacant parcels, as Jim noted. The EMC land is located to the east of 495. This is a little bit of an outdated Google graphic, but there is a roadway that comes down and connects into Flanders Road now that has been constructed by EMC. There's undeveloped parcels within West Park Drive, including both, a potential expansion of Olympus as well as the partner site. There's other parcels that are undeveloped down on West Park Drive right now that are sort of have long, skinny frontage. The new roadway will provide better frontage for those lots. And then as well as some available development on the north side of Route 9 up in the Technology Drive area. This graphic here shows the trail system a little bit better. So the town is proposing the B-Wall Trail, which would come through the Freiburg Parkway, Westborough Business Park area, through the Sudbury Valley Trustees land, through Caruth-owned properties here at 116 and 118 Flanders Road. And then it gets into where it would come through our site, basically running parallel to our proposed roadway expansion down to Flanders Road. So it would run along the side of that. So it would be a separate path off the edge of the pavement edge, so separate from the roadway itself. And then it would pick up back with the B-Walt master plan running along Flanders Road that then would come up Washington Street through the easement, the old trolley easement that it's running through on this side. So it's to the public benefit there to be able to have the multi-use trail built that comes down to Flanders Road there. Caruth would also then, under private development, connect the path up to the existing Westborough Office Park. And they are proposing also to do some shared use paths along, that would be within the roadway footprint through some line striping on the existing West Park Drive. So just, some further benefits to the pedestrian and bike traffic out there. For the Flanders Road improvements itself, let me zoom in a little bit on this plan. The proposed improvements to Flanders Road consist of a proposed left turn lane for the eastbound traffic on Flanders Road heading into the new West Park Drive roadway. Traffic on West Park Drive would have a left turn and a right turn lane out. The easement that we were discussing previously has to do with the traffic signal. And again, this is Caruth-owned land here. This is all part of their, I believe it's their 118 Flanders Road property down at this location. So it is on Caruth-owned land down here that a small easement would be needed for the traffic signal. So the bike and multi-use path would come down the edge of the roadway here. It would come to a handicap ramp and a crosswalk location. As Scott had noted earlier, there would be pedestrian signalization here, so bikes and pedestrians could get across. The road is being designed to have 5-foot shoulders on both sides of the roadway to promote the pedestrian and bicycle passage along Flanders Road itself. The roadway improvements span approximately 1,300 feet. That's for alignment purposes. By adding this left turn lane from Flanders Road into the site, it will require some tapering, both as you approach from the west, but then also on the eastern approach, it will require some realignment just so that the westbound approach lines up with the westbound exit lane here. So sort of a nutshell of what is required in the scope of work and what drives the cost of the total amount of Flanders Road up towards the $1 million mark that Scott was mentioning earlier. I don't know, Mark, if you want to add anything.
As far as the development, what our motivation here is, we have four reasons for doing this, and our number one reason is accessibility for both the cars, the pedestrian, and bikes. The Westborough Office Park has 25% vacancy rate, and if you take a look at the tenants that have already moved out, but there's still some term left on their lease, there's an over 30% availability rate, and almost all of the vacancy are in the buildings that are at the end of West Park Drive. The buildings at the beginning of the property are pretty much full. I think we have out of 3 buildings up there, I think we have 17,000 feet available. It's the buildings at the end, 1900, 2000, and 2200 West Park Drive. So by providing accessibility to the cars, pedestrians, and the bikes, we're going to be able to hopefully market and then fill up those buildings, as well as what Dan said is, we would like to develop the properties that are along the extension shown in red on this plan. We're not going to be able to develop any more land than what's already permitted. What you see in red there is a common driveway. So there's frontage on West Park Drive. So those properties are already approved, but they just have terrible access. And so this would improve our access. As Dan said, we have employees that live in Southborough, Ashland, Hopkinton, that have to travel 2.8 miles out of their way each day to travel that 700 feet. Also, by connecting to the B-Wall Trail, we're going to have the ability for people that live in the area to bike or walk to work. Also, our number 2 reason for doing this is a great amenity to have for the park. Not only is it access, but these walking and biking trails are a great amenity. This is something that this park has. Both Olympus and Partners are one of their requirements was to be in this kind of campus atmosphere, and they're very interested in having this road extend, especially Olympus Phase 2. They're moving people from out of state. They have an option to expand. It's not shown on this. It's not shown on this plan right now, but there's 150,000 feet that's currently under construction and will be occupied hopefully by March of next year. And as Jim Robbins said, that this is going to be a real improvement to the Route 9 495 intersection. If we can just relieve the traffic that people have to drive through that intersection for no other reason than to travel an extra 700 feet, this is the ability, the maximum capacity of this park is 1 million square feet, over 1 million square feet. But at 1 million square feet, given in 3,500 to 4,000 parking that's available out there, that's 3,500 to 4,000 cars at max potential. And there's a large percentage of those cars that aren't going to have to travel there. It's going to improve the economic development for not only this park, but for the area. And then finally, Dan pointed out that, and Jim pointed out this EMC area that's to be developed. And Scott Thornton has worked on that too. And that's going to add a lot of traffic at build out onto Flanders Road. And this is something that I think Bonnie, who works for our neighbor, Middlesex Bank, is getting in and out of Flanders Road during the rush hour is a little tough sometimes. If we have a light there, that's going to stop the traffic along the whole road. It's going to allow all the businesses along Flanders Road and the residences at Prentice Properties to be able to come in and leave their properties during rush hour. And that's it for me as far as the 4 main topics. Thank you very much. Hello?
Hi, anything further, Jim, on the presentation?
I have no further comments or description. I would like to hear Kevin's reaction if he has any.
Unfortunately, I don't get to weigh in on these. Different part of EOHED, but from what I've seen relative to other projects I've already seen awarded. This looks like a really, solid project. I would make sure that you include reference to some way, shape, or form, this being a green project, because by adding 700 feet of roadway, you're going to, save thousands of cars having to drive 2.8 miles per day additional by this. So that always plays well. So I would make sure that that's included somewhere in the application.
Actually, we're adding more than 700 feet. The buildings are 700 feet apart, but part of that red line is an existing common driveway that we're going to replace that with a road. So
Okay.
Dan, off the top of your head, do you know the length of the total West Park Drive extension?
It's just under 2,000 linear feet in total, I think, Mark. About 1,800.
Yeah, I recall, I think it's something like 0.4 of a mile, so that's about right.
Yeah.
But really, we are extending, we're replacing the common drive with the road and the V-wall trail, and then adding another 700 feet.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, no, that's a very good point. It's true, by adding 700 feet and replacing, 1,300 feet of it, people are going to not have to drive through this intersection.
Times 3,000 cars a day, or whatever the number is. You have the traffic study, so whatever that number is, it's a real number.
Scott, do you know off the top of your head what's the capacity of the traffic? What's projected for the EMC site in Westborough, Southborough?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I think it's in terms of peak hour trips. I think it's probably around 1,200 trips total, both directions, entering and exiting in the AM and PM peak hours. So it's a fair amount of traffic.
The subdivision development potential there was approved at 2.1 million square feet.
Yeah.
So together with the existing 7.2 million square feet, I mean, we're approaching 10 million square feet. Or that would be 9.3 million, and that doesn't include Partners or Olympus expansion.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. We thank you for joining us, and we appreciate the presentation. The Economic Development Committee will be sure to support you as you move along. So we'll look to Jim Robbins for direction for any support that you need from us. So thank you. You're welcome to stay with us if you'd like, or it's up to you.
Bonnie, can I just ask a question, Bonnie?
Sure,
for you?
of course.
Jim, are you looking for at some point a formal endorsement or vote of support from the EDC?
I am. I was going to ask that. Thank you very much, Kim, for bringing that up. Bonnie, my intention was to, after the presentation, ask the board to endorse the project. And if you vote to do that, then I would send a letter for your signature, obviously for your review and comment, and then eventual signature. So if the board supports this, please authorize the chairman to sign a letter directed to DHCD for the Massworks application.
I guess I would move that the EDC endorse the project and further authorize Bonnie Sullivan as our chair to draft and submit a letter of support of the project.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Fred Leonardo, aye.
Okay, great. Thanks, Fred.
Bonnie, it needs to be a roll call vote because it's a remote meeting.
Okay.
I forgot that one.
Okay, how does that go? So why don't you do that, run that?
So just the
person say
members
their
need
name.
to state their name and then express their support.
Okay. Alan?
Yes.
Alan made the motion. Did someone second it?
Yeah, I second it.
Okay. Todd,
So I vote yes.
Chris,
Bonnie
yes.
Sullivan, I vote yes.
Jim, yes.
Fred Leonardo was a yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay. All set, Kim? Great. Okay, thank you.
Good
Any
catch on the
further
roll call,
questions
Kim.
or comments? Any further questions or comments? Okay, great. Well, Jim, thank you for taking the initiative on that, and we'll look to hear from you. Great. Thank you. Well,
Thank you very much.
all. And
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Exciting project as a resident and local business person, so looking forward to it. Kevin, do you want to continue on with your
Yeah, absolutely.
presentation?
And by all means, anybody needs to leave, I am not offended if stay to hear about the other programs. You're welcome to stay, obviously, but I'm not at all offended if you need to leave. So the next program that Bonnie asked me to talk about briefly was the vacant storefront program. And this is a fairly new program in the grand scheme of things. It is part of the Economic Development Incentive Program that our agency, MOBD, facilitates. You're probably most familiar with the EDIP, the Economic Development Incentive Program, through TIFs. And then also in conjunction with TIFs, businesses can request and be awarded state tax credits. So this is kind of like the third leg of the Economic Development Incentive Program, and it is designed to encourage redevelopment of downtown areas and any areas with vacant storefronts. We actually had hosted a webinar this morning on this. I don't know if did anybody here attend or participate in that?
No, I would have liked to, and I thought it was a coincidence that it was today as well.
Yeah, no, it is. But I will send you the slide set because there are a lot of good tips in that slide set as well. So I'll make sure I get that out to you. But in effect, the program is very simple to participate in. The municipality has to act first, and you define a district that you would like to be considered your vacant storefront district. It does not have to be contiguous. So if you have a little cluster in one part of town, a little cluster in another part of town, that can be defined as your district. And what you have to do is identify parcels. You can probably get this through your assessor's database and your GPS system. Parcels that have been vacant for 12 months or more. And you identify them in your request to create a district, okay? You would then come to a quarterly meeting of the EACC, the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, which approves all tax credits in the Commonwealth, and present your district. And part of your presentation would include how would you fund the municipality's required match for the program. So it is a matching program. It's not necessarily a one-to-one match. We would love to see the municipality offer as much as possible. But you would have to just define a source of funding. And then other objectives like what you're trying to accomplish, that type of thing. Once the EACC approves your district, then any business that would like to take advantage and occupy one of those vacant storefronts submits an application that can be heard at the next quarterly meeting of the EACC. So we can't do a district and an applicant in the same meeting. So there is a 3-month lag on this, just so you all are aware. But a business that would apply can request support through the program, and what they can get is essentially as much as the municipality is willing to provide them, and up to a $10,000 refundable tax credit from the Commonwealth. And to small businesses, cash is king, and as far as tax credits go, refundable tax credits are about as close as cash as you can get, because if you don't have $10,000 worth of tax liability, you would get the remainder back in the form of a check from the Commonwealth. Okay, so it's important to note that the up to $10,000 that the Commonwealth will provide is in the form of a refundable tax credit. Okay, as opposed to just the traditional tax credit, which would only go up to your tax liability. It's limited to 2 locations per municipality. And we did that just not knowing how popular the program would be. And we have a limited pool of I think we have about, I think it's $500,000 a year right now dedicated to this program. So, that's approximately 50 awards of 10,000. But it's not guaranteed that every award will be 10,000. That'll depend on, the overall demand for the program. To date, the program opened up last year. I believe we have 17 municipalities have defined districts in the entire Commonwealth, and there have only been 4 projects completed, awarded. So part of the reason for this morning's webinar, and by the way, we had 120 municipal professionals join us to raise awareness of the program. So we suspect it will get significantly more competitive moving forward, just based on the response we had today to the program. I think a lot of municipalities weren't even aware it existed because it is such a new program. But we'd love to see you guys get a district defined and then make it available. And obviously some communities have a much more concentrated quote unquote downtown area, but you guys have a nice little downtown area as well. So I just don't know if you have a vacancy issue in your little downtown area there. But anyway, so happy to answer any questions, but I think almost anything you would ask would be answered by the slide set that I'll send out to you guys.
That slide set would be very helpful, Kevin.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, and then also just from a timing perspective, if you want to be heard by the EACC at the September meeting, you would need to get your district application in by August 19th. So Wednesday, August 19th would be the due date for your district.
Does the selectmen or the planning board need to officially designate the district?
You need a letter from the town manager and I believe a vote of the Board of Selectmen. All right.
What would be some examples of some of the other districts and I guess the 4 projects that have been awarded so far?
Yeah, so one was it's called Urban Spoon. It's up in Fitchburg. It is essentially a community kitchen where people who want to bring a food product to market but don't have the commercial kitchen facilities can, timeshare basically. And it's located directly across the street from their transportation hub. So people will get off the train or off the bus, whatever, be able to run across the street. And it's not a restaurant. It is a community kitchen, basically, where there's a seating area and you'll be able to buy food there. So that's one example. We had one in Worcester that was awarded. It is essentially a downtown market. So farm to market kind of thing. And there weren't a whole lot of markets in Worcester, so that was viewed very positively. And then the 2 that were just approved in the June meeting were both on Main Street in Webster, right across the street from each other, actually. And one is an Italian restaurant, and the other is kind of a boutique, like finger food / exotic cocktail type place. So like more of a gathering place. And what's important to note though is what you're trying to accomplish with this program. For example, Webster wanted to create foot traffic, particularly after normal workday foot traffic, because Webster kind of shuts down at 5 o'clock. So they would like to have a couple more things open on Main Street in Webster after 5 o'clock. That would increase some traffic and hopefully encourage more businesses to stay open later, those types of things. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It's Fred Leonardo, Building Commissioner. I had a couple questions. 2, you talk about the storefront. Can it be just one space in a building, or does it have to be the whole building?
It's got to be first floor.
Yeah.
Okay. So for example, we want to encourage walk-in type businesses. Mm-hmm. So your second floor engineering firm or accountant's office or whatever would not qualify. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but it can be a standalone location. And if a landlord is opening up a business in their own property, they also would be eligible to apply. But these awards are intended for the business operator, not the landlord. But the exception being made is if a landlord also is opening up a business in the building, that they could apply.
But could it be say if there were 3 tenants in a store in a particular building and only one space was vacant?
Yep.
That's fine.
Yep. Yeah, you can identify that space. Yep.
Okay, great. And then the other question was, you talk about only 2 locations per municipality. Does that mean only 2 buildings, or can it be?
Two awards. However, yeah, they could both be in the same building. If there were 2 adjacent storefronts in one building, it wouldn't matter. But 2 awards per community per calendar year.
Okay, thanks.
As far as timing,
Yeah.
Kevin, at what point do you get does the project have to be completed? We've got some, as you probably recall from our earlier meeting, the town has a grant program.
Yeah,
and we've
sure.
made awards to date, and there may be projects that are that are part of our downtown.
Mhm.
I'm just curious if they're at what point the vacant storefront programs steps into a project.
Sure. So, like the economic development incentive program, you need the but for these incentives, we could not have done this project. Okay.
Mhm.
You don't need that for the vacant storefront program. Okay.
Okay.
However, it's got to be in a district that is on the books. So if, I remember the example about the Dairy Queen, you were going to award some money for seating area and revamp, whatever it was, right?
Good memory.
Yeah. If that were going to be in your district, and you wanted to use, the whatever the $5,000 or the $10,000 or whatever it was you guys awarded as your match, theoretically, that could work, but that would have to be in the district that's already on the books. Okay, so there's not really a but for, but it has to be part of the district as defined. Okay, now that wouldn't work because that wasn't a vacant storefront, but I just use that as an example though.
So Kevin, it sounds like a wise idea would be to designate an existing, say, zoning district, like we have a downtown business district that has multiple scattered vacant storefronts. And the district exists on paper, it's easily defined. It sounds like that may be where you would start. Let me ask that.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. You could just actually pull your assessor's listing and then show what's been vacant for a year and essentially include all of them, but you will have to depict them on a map, show us, what it looks like on a map. We'll need GIS parcel numbers, that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, that's a great start. And then the other question came up is, well, geez, property that's been 10 months, but it won't be 12 months at the time of our application. How do we add it if it sits vacant for another 2 months? It's as simple as once you have the district on the books with the EACC and with us, you just send an updated letter in advance of the next quarterly meeting, and then they just take it up as an agenda item. You don't need to be present or anything like that. We would ask you to be present for your initial application, just to advocate for your project in your district. But to make updates to the district if parcels hit the 12-month threshold, you can just do that by a letter on letterhead.
So it's parcels as well as storefronts. Thank you.
Right. Yep.
And I guess I would look at not just the downtown business district, but the East Main Street Gateway District, because there's some longstanding vacancies there, as well as Lyman Street.
Yeah, and it does not have to be contiguous.
Our centers there that have had vacancies, for well over a year.
Sure. Right. Okay.
Right.
Kim?
Bonnie,
Kevin,
can
I'm curious. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there's some really good program info, and particularly the guidelines and the application on the website that really details exactly some of the requirements that Kevin's been talking about. So it's just a helpful resource to get a better sense of what's required and timing and things like that.
Right.
And if this is something as a committee we wanted to try and do by the August 19th deadline, I don't know if we could pull everything together fast enough, but there is a Board of Selectmen's meeting on the 18th.
Honestly, it's not a heavy lift as far as the application is concerned to create a district. Assuming you have access to the vacant parcels relatively easily, it's not a real heavy lift. So I would encourage you to do it if the committee so desires.
I know it's something we were looking to do when we last got together. And we do have two subcommittees. We have the one subcommittee that's reviewing completed applications for our existing grant program. And then we have another group that's looking at moving ahead with the grant program. And I think that would be the group that would be looking at how do we leverage other resources that are available out there. So I guess I would defer to that subcommittee. Fred, you may be part of it. Maybe Fred, John, I'm not quite sure. If we look at our interest in moving ahead, I guess who would have the capacity to drive that forward?
Well, so we talked about this several times at this committee. I mean, we can do it as a our subcommittee that you're talking about is myself, John, and Josh. And then Kim by default, I guess, sort of, maybe. But anyway, it's.
Yeah, I think Linda and maybe it had been Shelby, and maybe Alan would step into that. I know at least they were the two that were on kind of going forward on the project, but whoever it is, I guess I'm just looking to, who wants to own it and run forward with it.
Well, the timing becomes critical, Bonnie. I don't. But
yeah.
What happens if we generate it after the 19th? I'm not sure if we don't make the 19th deadline.
You would just have to wait until the December meeting rather than the September meeting for approval. So with the December meeting would have a corresponding November application deadline. So if you don't have it done by August, then you have until November.
That's
one
great.
of the things. Sorry, one of the things we might need to look at is that piece about the funding, because if we need to identify that we potentially have for two projects, a funding source for the $20,000.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when you see the slide set, because we intend to be as flexible as possible relative to sources of funding. You can use community block grant money. There's a whole wide variety of funding sources. I think it'll be pleasantly
I think we've talked about using our grant program, but I think what that requires is the legwork on work in the process of reviewing that program as it exists. So I'm just thinking if we look at revising how that grant program has worked so that it becomes the source for these projects, I think that's a tight time frame to get something prepared by August 19th.
Yeah. I would encourage you to take a look at the funding sources slide, though, in particular, though, because you may have some other options that wouldn't even occur to you.
Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, Kevin mentioned that the matching grants don't have to be one-to-one. So
the
current grant program has a maximum, I believe, of $5,000. So we could say that, we'll use two of those $5,000 chunks.
But that's being reviewed. That's
right,
the
but
piece
part of the review process and see where it goes in. I hear what you're saying.
Right. So to date, all four of the awardees, the municipality participated with at least $10,000. Okay, and we provided our maximum of $10,000. We don't know what the EACC would say if the municipality said, "Well, we're in for $5,000." Okay, so right now the program is flush with money. We could potentially still award the $10,000, but that's completely at the discretion of the EACC. And depending on how demand goes, especially after 120 people participating in this morning's webinar, I think it's going to tighten up. So I would suspect you'd probably err on the side of caution. I would not overpromise, because you hate to underdeliver. Right?
Kevin, I have a question that might be a good transition into a couple of the other programs. I'm curious whether the Mass DOT Shared Street and Spaces Grant or the Mass Development Commonwealth Places would be options for leveraging, participation in this program.
They probably would not, because the shared streets is not really related to vacant storefronts. And the Commonwealth Places, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but there are some other issues and concerns there that you guys should be aware of as well.
Okay, so maybe we should, given the time, I hadn't anticipated as much time on the Massworks, but I think it was good having everyone together. So maybe we should move into the other programs.
Absolutely. So I don't have a ton of stuff to add on the shared streets. program other than, what you probably have already seen online, but just a couple really key points though. These have to be like quick in, quick out type projects. I mean, the entire program is 100 days long from inception until the funding goes away. And so you've got to be able to move quickly. What they're going to view favorably are projects that can be acted upon within 15 to 30 days of the award. So if you identify an area of downtown that if we put up some plastic traffic barriers, we'd be able to put seating out and, change traffic flow and improve walkability, and we can get that done in 15 to 30 days, that would be viewed very favorably. So it's got to be really quick in and out, type projects that can be acted on very quickly. I think the awards run from $5,000 up to $300,000. There's not a ton of money in the program. There's $5 million total, and you can have up to, I believe, 3 projects per municipality. You also can partner with other municipalities if there's a project that spans, that logically spans, two municipality property lines there. So other than that, I would just really encourage you to read through the page that's available on the website. It's actually pretty self-explanatory. The key point though is the last day for applications is September 27th. Okay, so you don't have a ton of time there. And the projects have to be mostly completed by October 9th. So these really are fast path type projects, meant to have an immediate impact to improve things, given COVID and outdoor dining and all those types of things.
Are you familiar with any that have been awarded to date?
I've not personally been looped in on any in my region, but that's not to say that there weren't. I mean, I know the program is very active.
Kim or Jim, is there anything in town that's underway? Or I know, I don't know, maybe Alan had mentioned in the past some of the things that are going on with the restaurants. Maybe it was Fred. But is there anything that jumps to your mind that could be a candidate for something like this?
I would defer to Fred or Jim if they're aware of anything, especially in the current environment.
We actually have an application already submitted for a project. It's to do with sidewalk ramp improvements, which meets the criteria. It's associated with safe routes to school. So we're pending, response from Shared Streets to know, what the outcome is.
One key point that I've neglected to make is that any project you submit has got to be signed off on by public safety. So if you have a public safety committee that only meets on a periodic basis, make sure you get the project on their agenda to get sign off so that they're on board with it before it's submitted. You're going to want to submit the letter from public safety along with your application. If you haven't done so on the one you've already submitted, I would just make sure you get that done.
If this program is designed to, for temporary accommodations related to COVID, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so initially, I mean, I think that was the genesis of it, but bonus points or in consideration are given to projects that could be converted easily to permanent. So if, this addresses the immediate need, but, replacing plastic temporary barriers with nice planters, in the span of the next 6 months would, and turn into a permanent type thing. I think that's viewed favorably as well.
Okay, because I know there are probably 3 or 4 businesses downtown that I'm not sure I don't know whether or not they're even aware of the program, but might benefit from outdoor seating and taking I think a Rotary Pizza, taking a couple parking spaces, or Christina's or Red Barn Coffee, but those would be temporary until COVID was over and they could, reopen fully.
Sure.
So those are, as far as I'm aware, those are really the only ones I would see from a business standpoint that would need that outside space where they don't have private land to put up the tent or the barriers.
We discussed this with a subcommittee of the General Review Group, and the concern was access security. So, for example, Alan, you mentioned like Red Barn Coffee. It's on a corner in the center of town as you come around the Rotary. the police and fire departments were very concerned about controlling that area for safety because it's already a blind line of sight. As you know, anybody backing out of a parking space there has a line of sight issue. We didn't want to invite pedestrians into the public way there. But I'm not a member of that official subcommittee. The two chiefs are and Fred is, so I would defer to him.
Chris, where is the location you're referring to? The education?
It's on West Street. There's a couple of intersections there between the, well, basically center West Street.
Okay. And Kevin, can you speak to Mass Development's Commonwealth Places?
Yeah, do you want the bad news first or the good news?
I guess shoot with the bad.
All right. The bad news is the deadline is tomorrow. And the even worse news is that Westborough doesn't qualify. Okay, so the program, it's a limited pool of money. I'll share just a little bit with you, just because guidelines can change and parameters can change over time in subsequent years. But there's not a lot of money. It's $225,000 available statewide for outdoor parking and other things like that. Except on a rolling basis through tomorrow. However, the language I got was eligibility is based on median household income, and Westborough does not qualify based on that criteria. Okay. So,
right.
I mean, that could change if this program is renewed in the next fiscal year at Mass Development. But as of right now, you guys would not be qualified for it.
Okay.
We're not like, it sounds like the CDBG program. We're not a designated community. We're not an entitlement community.
Right.
We're not
Right.
blighted like that you need to be.
Right.
Well, Kevin, thank you very much. We appreciate all of the information. And I think we'll have our subcommittee convene on the vacant storefront program.
Sure.
And consider you the point of contact for that if we
Yeah,
decide to move
absolutely.
forward, whether it's for September or December.
Right. And so I will get you as a follow-up the slide set from the Massworks
Yep.
webinars that were done, and then the slide set from the vacant storefront
Okay.
webinar that was
Excellent.
done. Okay?
That would be great, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Sure, my pleasure. I just muted myself in mid-sentence there. I'm happy to do this on a quarterly basis, or whatever it makes sense to to update you and learn more about what you guys are doing in your community.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
Have a great night.
Yeah, and Kevin, I know I regularly receive your emails with all the program updates.
Yeah, sure.
So it might be, I don't know if you have others from Westborough that are included in that, but.
If you'd like to be included on the list, just please get me your email address, and I'll add you to my email blast list.
Okay.
And
Right.
and I think Bonnie will test. I try not to spam. You get things when I think they're very important. You're not going to get like a daily email filling up your inbox.
Yep. Kevin, how do you collaborate with 495 Metro West Partnership? Because I get a lot of information from them as well, and I know that they would be one piece of your region.
Yeah, so 495 Metro West is actually a REDO, a Regional Economic Development Organization, which is funded through an MOBD line item. So they're very close partners. So you'll see, for example, I believe it was yesterday's blast that they sent out included our invitation to our seminar next week on the workplace safety grant. So they're a very close partner, and they would tend to send out a lot of stuff that we forward as well.
Okay.
All right.
All
Great.
right. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
All right. Take care. Stay cool. Stay safe.
Thank you, Kevin.
Let's see. Jim, do you have anything further to add on the discussion or
This discussion of
for the agenda? Yeah. I think we had, certainly the Massworks application, but are there any other updates that you'd like to provide?
Let me think about that for a moment. There are no new commercial projects I think that you'd be interested in. We have a bunch of residential ones at this point. We have a residential subdivision we just approved. We have another one that's begun the process, but I don't have any new commercial ones. As you know, the Burger King is still under construction. They need a mass highway access permit to Route 9. The driveway that they built does not meet mass highway specifications. They need to get a new permit. That's in the works. That's not the only thing holding the project up. That's just the most recent thing. So I think that the Massworks right now is the most important thing for our community, because that's going to be a major new intersection that will help relieve traffic in the business parks on the eastern side of town. And it's ultimately a regional project. That's why it's so important right now. So thank you.
Great. Fred?
Yeah, real quickly, Park Place Technologies is the company, I believe, that's moving into One Research. I had mentioned that our last meeting. I don't know anything about them, but I believe that's the name of them. And the other thing I'm happy to say that Middlesex Bank is actually opening up a branch on 65 East Main Street. So the old package store and what used to be the coffee store there, the package store hasn't moved out quite yet, but hopefully soon. So there's a branch slated for that spot. That's all I have.
Anything further that anyone would like to add? Todd, Alan, Chris?
The new hair salon is open at Bay State Commons. You might take a look at that.
Good.
It's where cost cutters used to be.
Todd, what are you seeing in your, in your experience out in the market right now? Pretty quiet?
No, it's a mixed bag, to be honest with you. There's a lot of the smaller guys are still struggling. I know of a few, I'm not at liberty to say right now, who have some leases in this market that are rolling towards the end of the year, and they've already decided they're not going to renew. Some of these retailers are looking to do more online type of sales. But I've got some activity with, believe it or not, not in this market, but a couple of restaurants. Did a deal out in Worcester with one. I'm working on one in up in New Hampshire. So a couple of guys are active, but a lot of people are getting hit pretty hard now. And I think, I don't want to think the worst, but if another round comes through, second round comes through, it's going to be tough for a lot of these smaller retailers. But I think us as an economic committee have to try and do whatever we can to help these folks out. It's starting to get pretty bad. We're fortunate at Bay State, we haven't lost anyone yet. Nobody's closed. Nobody has stated that they're not reopening. A lot of landlords, including Bay State, are willing to, defer rent and work with tenants right now, and kind of have to approach it as a team, get through it.
Todd, the vacancy where Zendan used to be at Bay State, that was the juice place. It's been vacant now for quite a while. Didn't we have somebody that was looking at that?
Yeah, we had a few people that were, there was a lot of activity right at the end of the year when GNC closed down. And then when COVID hit, those people that we were talking to, they just went silent. They're not in a position to go forward right now.
Okay. When did Cost Cutters actually leave? We're glad.
Cost Cutters left at the end of the year, but we had been working on that deal with Janet pretty much immediately after they left. She used to work for that Cost Cutters franchisee, so she was familiar with the space. She's done a great job with it. If anyone hasn't seen it yet, just go in and give her your support. She's done a really nice job with the build out and the social media. I checked on social media. She's getting a lot of positive feedback. So it's nice to see somebody like her succeeding, at least hopefully succeeding in a time like this.
Yes, I actually met with her today at her store.
Oh, great.
Yeah, she told me that she's been very fortunate that she has loyal customers that followed her from her previous location. She thinks she's going to be okay. She's optimistic. She didn't have anyone there when I went there, probably 1 o'clock this afternoon. But it looks great. The signage, the build out, very nice shop. So anybody who wants a haircut, I recommend you try her.
Well, needless to say, I won't be going there anytime soon.
Really, why?
I've been doing my own for 2 years now.
Yeah.
Think of all the money I've saved.
Yeah. Anything further? Now, on the issue with the vacant storefronts and subcommittee, I think there were a couple of things there. There's the discussion on, Kim has been speaking with Dairy Queen on the grant application. And then there's, I guess, so there's a pending application for that group. And then there's secondly, the issue of moving forward with the grant and potentially the district through the vacant storefront program. So Kim, do you want to jump in?
So just a little additional information. So Dairy Queen they're not looking for an additional grant at this point. They haven't spent the funds that they were awarded back in December. I believe a good chunk of the money was for some outdoor seating. And given the current climate, they didn't feel it would be prudent to move forward with that. So I've had a number of conversations, and what they're looking to do, and we have a revised application. They're looking to have an approval to expend the funds already awarded on different items. I believe it's cash registers. So I just wanted to clarify, that's not a new ask. It's just a reallocation of money that they had. The other award, I think it was the most recent award, was to Pork and Grain in January, early February timeframe. I had just heard from, I believe it's Dan. He had not expended the funds, had not moved forward with that purchase once COVID hit, because he was waiting to see how things were going to play out. But things are looking good for him. So right now he is looking to move forward and will make that purchase. So what I just wanted to mention too, the way the funding works, the money from the billboards comes in usually November, December timeframe. So the money that we have available right now includes, we will encumber funds for these two projects that have already been approved. And we have authorization in this current fiscal year, FY21. We did increase the authorization to spend, now it's $40,000, where that had been $25,000 in the past. So we have a balance right now of about $25,000 in that account. About 10,000 of that is already earmarked for the projects that have been approved, which means we potentially have around $15,000 that would have to, it would be part of the 40 that we're authorized to spend, but that would be $15,000 that could potentially be spent between now and that November, December timeframe when the funds come in. The finance director would like us to make sure that we're not awarding grants and making funds available until we actually are in receipt of the funds. So we had talked about this in the past, and we expected this. If we had remaining fund balance at the end of fiscal 20, that is what we talked about using as seed money in the event we wanted to make awards, the summer, early fall timeframe. So I think that's just something that, as the process and how the grant money could be used, that's something that can sort of be built into that, because we had talked about potentially, what's the time frame for making awards? Is it a rolling application? Do we designate, certain amount available at different times of the year? So the piece of the conversation about that just needs to also incorporate when we actually have the money available to it taken into the account.
I'm not sure it's appropriate for me as an ambassador to raise the question, but it's my recollection that the grant program was tied to increases in business by people. And I guess I want to ask the question about transferring the amount from Dairy Queen from a project that was supposed to increase their business to replacing cash registers.
I'll comment on that real quickly. Peter, I don't think we can do that without the whole committee weighing in on that. I think it really have to come back to the committee and have another vote from the committee to whether they'd want to do that or not. Because as I would understand it, the grant was awarded for a particular item. So it would have to really, I don't know if you'd have to do a new application necessarily, but you'd have to bring it back in my, what I would think.
I agree.
I think Kim has a new application, which we just haven't gotten the subcommittee together. So I think that new application needs to be reviewed by the subcommittee, and then the subcommittee can make a recommendation. From what I understood, the idea behind the new registers was to be able to process things more quickly so they could get people through the line and increase their business rather than people waiting in line for so long. Whether or not we think that's the best use of what we're doing, is another, issue. But I guess at this point, maybe Kim, you pass the updated application on to the subcommittee. And Fred, you said that's you, John, and
Josh.
Okay.
And then I don't know to be honest with you, I don't know if Kim's sitting on this because we haven't done one in so long. It's been a while because Katie used to sit on that committee too.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I guess, Kim, if you have the capacity, given your connection with Dairy Queen, I think it would be helpful if you could work with them.
Sure. So I think just from a timing standpoint, I'll work with the committee, see if we can get something scheduled so that perhaps we could come back and have this on the agenda for a full committee vote at the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it's 5 o'clock now. I guess we should wrap up unless anyone has anything else. And I appreciate everyone being flexible when it comes to when we convene again. Because we've gotten off schedule, to holding to our monthly meeting. Alan, do you have something to add?
Yes. Just very quickly, it's on the agenda under EDC programs and priorities.
Yes, which we never got to. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think there's a timeliness here for us to start thinking about when COVID-19 hit. The Westborough Spirit Committee went out and contacted every restaurant they knew of, and even some they didn't know existed before, and started building an online spreadsheet of who was open for carry out and delivery and hours and special conditions. And a local web developer sort of took that on and created a site, Westborough-open.com, where as restaurants have opened up, they've been able to update their hours and the conditions and everything. My thought, given the increasing number of emptying restaurant spaces, not just the Chateau and not your average Joe's, but Bushel and Peck. I didn't realize the donut shop was already being re-provisioned. I hope we're not losing a grease trap there. But Simple Greek and Speedway Plaza and others that the thought is a committee, would we want to maybe go to town meeting for some funding to have that website really enhanced to be, hey, Westborough is a foodie place, right? Come here for a variety of restaurants, find out what's here, not charge the restaurants to be part of it, but just basic information, who they are, the type of food, hours, links to their menu, links to their reservations, whatever. But then have a section of the site that's really saying, hey, if you're looking for another location for, an additional location as the economy improves, come here. Here are the spaces that are available, the size and the type. Here are, really promote Westborough as not just a place to come and eat, but a place to open a restaurant or expand. So that hopefully next spring, if things start really opening up and growing, that restaurants will think of us as the place to be and grow. And I know we don't have budget to pay someone to do the website, and probably not the volunteer hours, but put it out there as something that, if we thought it was a good idea and could scope it, could maybe, look for some funding or funding source to do something like that.
An interesting idea. I'm curious, just on I'm not familiar with it, but I've kind of been in my own little cocoon, I think, and I'm probably not exposed to much of what's going on. I'm wondering even if they can be posted on the billboard out on Route 9, that awareness of that,
Yep,
that site.
and I can check to see how things that, because with all the outside dining, things are pretty open and people are aware of it. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if she's still updating the site on a regular basis. I can check in with her
Yeah.
and get back to you on that.
Kim, I think Christy was pretty familiar with the billboard, and have you been introduced to that as far as how we add information to the billboard?
Well, yes, I haven't been doing it, but
Yeah.
I'm aware that it exists.
Yeah. I don't know, Alan, what you learned, but maybe there's a way to quickly, if it is something that's, worth promoting, maybe it could be, we could easily add it there. No. I would think, Todd, that you would have a lot of input on this topic, just given your, your activity in the market. So I think it's something that's interesting to discuss, and maybe we can try to dedicate more time to it. Another topic I think that Kim had brought up was, what are we thinking about, under the idea of priorities that we haven't gotten to, but, what are some of the things that we're looking to be doing? And, it may not be realistic that we have an annual celebration in January with a couple hundred people all together in one room, but maybe we had talked about doing a video that promoted the town and leveraging the work we've done with Karen, if you're still there, with the Westborough TV and some of those videos, but maybe that might be something that we do as our part of a kind of a virtual celebration. So maybe we add those topics to our agenda for our next discussion, given that we're after 5 now, but.
I agree with you, Bonnie. You're going to need to have that on the next agenda, which will be, sometime in August, hopefully, because normally we start working on it in September, and we have the logistics in place by the end of September, and then we begin working on the awards. So you're right.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Oh, hi, Karen. Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, everyone, loved it. And I wasn't thinking necessarily that we would have a in-person breakfast, but one of the things we had talked about was doing a video promoting the town, much like some of the other communities have done. And maybe there's something we can do there. But I think there was a group, I think Todd, you might have been part of it, Linda and Josh and whoever's interested to kind of pick up that discussion. I think you had seen something that Grafton had done, and I believe Marlborough's been active. So we'll put that on the agenda. Are people, just as a final question, I guess, are people, kind of late August, after Labor Day, is there a preference for when we, I guess, raise your hand if the last week of August, or okay, Fred, or if you prefer, after Labor Day, which I'm not even sure when Labor Day is, but is there a preference for?
I think if we do it after Labor Day, then we miss a meeting in August, and that kind of just drags out even longer. I think it's important to continue to have these meetings, and
Okay.
My vote would be, last week in August.
Last week of August. Okay. So does this time work for people late in the day on a Thursday? It kind of works for me, just balancing, work responsibilities and everything. So we'll target that. I'm not sure what day that ends up being. The last
August
week of August.
27th
27th
is a Thursday.
Okay.
Yep, that works.
That's fine.
Yep. Okay. And if not the 27th, into the beginning of the following week, what does that end up being? Maybe, what is Monday, the 31st, or?
Then you are getting into Labor Day weekend that following week, because Labor Day is the 7th, as late as it can be on the calendar.
Yep. Okay. So sometime between August 27th and August 31st, we'll get back to you in the next couple of weeks. Okay. All right, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone's time.
Motion to adjourn.
Second it.
Roll call vote.
Yes, Fred says yes.
Alan says yes.
Jim,
Scott
yes.
says yes.
Chris, yes.
Bonnie says yes.
Thank you, adjourned.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Good August.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Kim.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yep, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.